A clay lamp trembles in the darkness. Not because of the wind. There is no wind here. The flame bends anyway, stretching sideways for a brief moment before settling back into stillness. A child sleeps on a woven reed mat nearby. In the corner, grain rests inside sealed jars. The walls are cool, thick, protective. At least, that is what the family believes. For thousands of years, ancient Egyptian homes have been imagined as places of refuge, simple structures standing safely beyond the dangers of the desert. Outside waited scorching heat, predators, floods, and uncertainty. Inside waited shelter. But safety is often a matter of perspective, and some of the greatest dangers in ancient Egypt did not wait beyond the walls. They lived inside them. The story begins with a misunderstanding that has survived for millennia. Most people picture ancient Egypt through the lens of monuments, vast temples, towering statues, endless stone, a civilization seemingly obsessed with permanence. Yet, the average Egyptian spent almost none of life inside those immortal structures. Life unfolded elsewhere, in houses made of mudbrick, fragile homes pressed closely together along the Nile, built from the very earth that sustained civilization. From a distance, they appeared stable, familiar, human. But beneath that appearance existed an environment filled with invisible threats that modern people rarely consider. Threats hidden in dust, in darkness, in food, in water, even in the walls themselves. The irony is difficult to ignore. The civilization that mastered stone often lived within structures designed to disappear. And perhaps that impermanence concealed dangers no monument ever could. Consider the floor beneath an Egyptian family's feet. Not polished stone, not hardwood. Simply packed earth. Each day, people walked across it carrying the fragments of the outside world indoors. Animal waste, river mud, parasites, microscopic organisms no one could see and no one could understand. Modern archaeology occasionally reveals traces of ancient parasites preserved in human remains. Researchers studying Egyptian mummies have discovered evidence of diseases that circulated through everyday life, illnesses linked to contaminated environments and close contact with water sources. The discoveries reveal something unsettling. Many ancient Egyptians were fighting enemies they never knew existed. Not because they were careless, because the battlefield was invisible. A person could feel healthy one day and weak the next without ever understanding the cause. The danger arrived without sound, without warning, without a face, and invisible threats have always been the most difficult for humans to fear. Our minds evolved to notice movement in the bushes, not microscopic organisms hiding in a cup of water. The Nile gave life to Egypt. That much is true. But the same river that nourished civilization also carried risk into nearly every household. Water connected villages, crops, animals, and people into one vast biological network. A blessing and a vulnerability. Each flood renewed fertility. Each flood also redistributed contaminants across enormous distances. What sustained civilization could simultaneously weaken it. The relationship was never simple. Nature rarely offers gifts without conditions. Yet disease was only the beginning. Night brought another world. As daylight faded and temperatures dropped, shadows reclaimed the narrow spaces between walls. Ancient homes became environments of uncertainty. The darkness itself was dangerous, not in the poetic sense, in the practical sense. A misplaced step, a concealed object, a venomous creature. Suddenly, survival became dependent upon what could not be seen. Scorpions were among the most feared visitors, small enough to remain unnoticed, deadly enough to command respect. Archaeological evidence and ancient texts reveal a civilization deeply familiar with scorpion stings. Protective spells, medical remedies, and religious appeals emerged around these encounters. That alone tells a story. People do not create elaborate protections against imaginary dangers. They create them against recurring ones. Somewhere in ancient Egypt, countless families ended evenings by carefully checking sleeping areas before lying down. And still, sometimes, it was not enough. The terrifying thing about a scorpion is not merely its venom. It is its silence. The attack arrives from a place that looked safe moments earlier. A reminder that danger does not always announce itself. Sometimes it waits patiently beneath certainty. Snakes carried a similar psychological weight. Egyptian culture respected them, feared them, and immortalized them in mythology. But mythology often begins with reality. Many species inhabited the regions surrounding human settlements. Their presence transformed ordinary routines into calculations of risk. Every pile of stored material, every dark corner, every neglected space, potentially occupied. Civilization often appears, in retrospect, like a triumph over nature. Yet ancient homes reveal a different truth. Nature never truly left. It merely moved indoors. Then there was the air itself, an invisible danger so ordinary that almost nobody would have recognized it. Cooking fires. For countless generations, families prepared meals over open flames within enclosed or semi-enclosed spaces. Smoke drifted upward, but not all of it escaped. Minute particles accumulated in lungs year after year. Researchers studying ancient remains have suggested that long-term smoke exposure likely affected many populations throughout the ancient world. The danger was subtle, not sudden, not dramatic. Just breath after breath, day after day. A slow negotiation between necessity and consequence. Human history is filled with threats that kill quickly. But some of the most profound dangers are those that become normal. When suffering is woven into routine, it becomes difficult to recognize. Ancient Egyptians were not unique in this. Neither are we. The pattern persists. Every civilization inherits risks. It eventually stops noticing. Perhaps the most disturbing dangers were hidden inside success itself. Food storage made complex society possible. Without surplus grain, Egypt could never have sustained cities, governments, priests, armies, or monumental construction. Stored food created civilization. It also attracted competitors. Rodents, insects, contamination. A grain jar represented wealth. It also represented vulnerability. Every attempt to preserve resources created new ecological relationships. Humans stored food. Other species followed. Civilization expanded. So did the opportunities for infestation. The pattern appears again and again throughout history. Progress solves one problem, then quietly invents another. And nowhere is that more visible than inside the home. Yet the deepest danger may not have been biological at all. It may have been psychological. Imagine living in a world where illness appeared without explanation, where a child developed a fever for reasons nobody understood, where a healthy person suddenly weakened, where venom, infection, contamination, and environmental hazards blended together into a single mystery. Ancient Egyptians were intelligent observers of the natural world. They recognized patterns, recorded symptoms, developed treatments. But knowledge has limits, and beyond those limits lies uncertainty. Humans are remarkably resilient against danger, less resilient against not knowing. The unknown transforms ordinary events into existential questions. Why did this happen? What caused it? Can it happen again? In that sense, ancient homes contained something more frightening than disease. They contained ambiguity. the invisible gap between cause and understanding. Modern people often look backward and assume history was defined by obvious threats: predators, wars, disasters. That is not entirely wrong, but archaeology paints a more complicated picture. Many dangers emerged not from dramatic events, but from ordinary life itself. A meal, a floor, a water jar, a sleeping mat, a dark corner. The places designed for comfort were often the places where risk accumulated unnoticed. And perhaps that realization reaches beyond ancient Egypt, because the story is not really about mudbrick houses beside the Nile. It is about a pattern that follows humanity everywhere. We build walls to keep danger out, then spend generations discovering what was already inside. The details change. The principle remains. Ancient Egyptians feared scorpions beneath sleeping mats. Today, people worry about threats hidden in systems too small, too complex, or too distant to see. Different century, same psychology, the same ancient mind searching for certainty in an uncertain world. And that may be the most unsettling discovery of all. When archaeologists uncover the remains of an Egyptian home, they reveal more than architecture. They reveal a conversation between humans and vulnerability. A conversation that never ended, because a home is not the absence of danger. It never has been. A home is simply the place where people attempt to negotiate with danger, to organize it, to reduce it, to forget it long enough to sleep. And perhaps that trembling lamp at the beginning of our story was never merely a lamp. Perhaps it was a symbol, a small island of light surrounded by forces its owners could not fully see, could not fully understand, and could never fully control. Thousands of years have passed. The mud brick walls have collapsed. The families are gone. The voices have faded into silence. Yet the question remains remarkably unchanged. What hidden dangers exist within the places we trust most? The ancient Egyptians never found a final answer. Neither have we. And that uncertainty may be one of the oldest things humanity has ever carried home. Like and subscribe. See you in the next.